Excellent. Kia ora. Hi, Nicola. This is Jenny Cave, and I'm talking to Nicola Turner. Nicola Turner is the founder of a social enterprise called Mainstream Green, and her focus is on sustainability, making sustainability easy and normal and feel good. And she's just fantastic. I met Nicola some weeks ago, and she totally inspired me with her approach to life and to living. And so I thought that she'd be a fantastic person to talk about having conversations with. She lives here in Cambridge, New Zealand. Let's start by asking, perhaps first of all, how do you start having a conversation about difficult issues such as sustainability?
Yeah, I think that's a really cool question. I think conversations, really, when you really boil it down, as humans, we tend to be most interested in ourselves. So when I start conversations, it's not about me trying to get my point across. It's really trying to understand the other person and ask them questions about themselves, because I think that's a really nice way to engage people, and also a really good way to, because if you're having a conversation and you're trying to persuade somebody or you're trying to get a point across, opening the focus by starting with them really helps you to understand their position and where they're coming from and what their why is, which makes it a lot more effective to be able to tap into them, and I guess make it relatable for them and make it more easy to influence or persuade them if that's what you're trying to do.
Cool. What about in a large group? Having conversations one-on-one is one skill, but what about in a group where you say maybe have 10, 20 people?
Yeah, so I still think there's still ways of opening it up and making them feel like they're part of the conversation. I think that's really important, as opposed to them feeling like they're getting spoken at. How are there ways that you can make them feel like they are part of the conversation? And you can still ask groups questions, for example. The other thing I think is to make sure, if you sense there's going to be any barriers, how do you acknowledge those and make yourself really relatable? So for example, one of the big barriers that often comes across with sustainability is most people inherently want to do the right thing, but they're not going to do it if it feels like it's going to be too much effort or too time consuming or too much of a compromise. So sometimes I will literally open what I'm saying by that, and make it, but put it on me. So I really want to be more sustainable. I get that we need to change. I get that it's the right thing to do for future generations. I get all that. But if I'm really honest with myself, I'm only going to do it if it's not going to take me heaps more time or cost me heaps more money or compromise my business or my lifestyle. So if you kind of make it relatable and almost disarm yourself and overcome barriers right up front, I think that can make it a lot more relatable and a lot more likely for people to engage in that conversation.
That's a really, really good point. How about if there's conflict within the room, or major disagreement and opposition, say, to something you've suggested?
Yeah, I think it's all, the one thing I pack going into a conversation or any human interaction, I think, is an open mind, because I think it's really important. Every conversation I have, every course I run, every event that I do, I learn so much from the people that are there as well. Yeah, and my objective is, it always is, right? And so I think it's all for me about how do you open your mind to other perspectives and make that person feel like their perspective is heard, which makes them feel a lot more engaged, but also gives you the insight to understand what the barriers are and therefore address those through the conversation you're having.
That makes a huge amount of sense. What about settings, different settings? Are there different places where conversations work more easily than others?
Yeah, I think it's just an underlying theme, I guess, of conversations work best when people feel comfortable in whatever that setting is. So I don't think there's kind of a hard and fast rule of the type of setting, but how do you make that setting feel comfortable to people? And that might be through physical layout and things like that, but it also might be through how you welcome people. And funnily enough, my 8-year-old daughter's been doing a little school project on this, on how do you, if you're welcoming people into your house, what can you do to make them feel welcome? If you're welcoming people, even if it's not your space, if I'm speaking in a conference room, for example, it's not my space, but there's still things we can do to make people feel at ease, even acknowledging them. If I'm speaking to a room of 500 people, I still, try to have conversations and welcome people when they're coming into the room. So I think it's more about that, the sense of feeling welcome. There's things you can definitely do with physical rooms, can you sit people in circles, or can you, all of those things. But I think to me, it's all about our words and our actions and making people feel welcome and comfortable.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I think that we'd best stop for now, but it's been just wonderful. Thank you so much, Nicola. I'm really, really thrilled that you've been able to share this with us.
My pleasure, Jenny. Thanks for having me.
Cheers. Talk to you soon.
Bye.